My girlfriend told me, "You're simply not appealing anymore." Right after I got laid off, I replied, "Goodbye then." She was clueless about my inheritance. She discovered it when she spotted my brand new penthouse on Instagram. Her "I miss us" message remains my top screenshot. Everything unfolded last month, and it's still pretty unbelievable to reflect on. For 3 years, I dated a woman named Isabella. I believed we were rock solid. We shared a simple 2-bedroom apartment. We had our daily habits. We were that easygoing pair everyone recognized. I wasn't wealthy, but I held a solid position in software engineering, and we enjoyed a fairly comfortable existence. We took nice trips, dined at quality spots, and I covered most of the costs. I didn't mind. I thought that's how you construct a future with someone. Around 2 months back, 2 events occurred in the same week that essentially shattered my whole reality. First, my grandfather died. He was an incredible man, a reserved, diligent individual who had created a modest real estate empire from scratch. I was his sole grandchild, and we shared a strong bond. His passing struck me deeply. I spent a week in a haze, managing funeral plans and handling my sorrow. Isabella offered support, but it felt remote. She grasped my hand at the service, but I sensed her thoughts were elsewhere. 5 days post-funeral, I returned to work, attempting to clear my mind, when my manager summoned me to his office. The firm was conducting layoffs. My entire department was being axed. Suddenly, I was jobless. It was a devastating blow, particularly following my grandfather's loss. I arrived home that night feeling like I'd been hit by a bus. I was mourning. I was anxious about securing new employment, and I simply needed some backing. I sat Isabella down on the sofa and explained the situation. I anticipated an embrace, perhaps some motivating words. Instead, she developed this odd, evaluative expression. She stayed silent for an extended period. The following evening, she delivered her judgment. We were in the living room. I was on my laptop browsing job listings. She was simply gazing at me. At last, she exhaled. A truly exaggerated, staged exhale. "We need to discuss something," she stated. I shut the laptop. "What's going on?" She scanned me from head to toe, and her mouth twisted into a small sneer. It wasn't a kind grin. It was belittling. She remarked, "It's just, you're not appealing anymore." I simply stared at her. "What do you mean?" "This," she said, waving her hand at me, at my laptop displaying the job hunt pages. "The pressure, the joblessness. It's not flattering. I'm drawn to drive, to achievement. You're just not that now. I believe we're finished." It was so direct, so harsh, that I didn't know how to respond. My grandfather had just passed. I had just been let go. And the woman I thought cared for me was striking me when I was vulnerable because I was no longer appealing to her. There was zero empathy, no suggestion of help, just a chilly, firm assessment. My worth to her was linked straight to my position and my salary. Something in me just shut down. The mourning and the anxiety lingered, but a fresh emotion surged forward. A calm, sharp understanding. I wasn't going to plead. I wasn't going to debate. She had revealed precisely who she was, and I accepted it. I just nodded. "Goodbye then," I said. My absence of response enraged her. She anticipated drama. She wanted me to beg, to vow I'd land a new role, to claim I couldn't survive without her. My straightforward acceptance stripped her of her control. "That's all," she barked. "After 3 years, that's your only response? Goodbye then?" "You chose this," I said, rising from the sofa. "What more is there to say? I can assist with packing." She passed the next few hours hurling her belongings into cartons, banging doors and cabinets. I just remained on the sofa and observed. She was unaware of one vital fact. The previous day, my grandfather's attorney had contacted me. My grandfather had bequeathed everything to me, his full estate. The preliminary estimate was ongoing, but the attorney mentioned a figure so large it seemed unreal. He advised me not to make major choices until probate wrapped up, which might take several months. So I hadn't mentioned it to anyone, particularly not Isabella, while I was still coping with my grandfather's death. My sorrow and my abrupt unemployment were genuine. But my money situation was the reverse of what she assumed, and I resolved right then that she would never learn. She phoned a friend to fetch her. She lacked her own vehicle. She'd always relied on mine. As she exited the door for the final time, she paused and offered one last glance of sympathy. "I hope you recover." "I truly do," she said. It was the most fake thing I'd ever heard. "I'll manage too," I said. I shut the door after her and secured it. The quiet in the apartment was overwhelming, but it was a positive silence. The initial action I took was phoning my attorney and informing him of the split. He handled my grandfather's estate too. He provided very basic, very direct guidance. Record everything, divide all finances, and avoid contact with her. The first escalation happened 3 days later. I received an alert from my credit card firm about a questionable transaction. It was a $5,000 purchase at a high-end purse boutique. I shared a joint credit card with Isabella meant for crises only. She carried the card. She knew I'd just been fired, yet she figured she could indulge in one final splurge using my funds. I contacted the credit card company, declared the card stolen, and reported the unauthorized charge. They voided the card and began a probe. I forwarded a capture of the transaction to Isabella with a brief note. I figured this was an error. I flagged it as fraud. Her response was immediate and angry. That was our card. You can't simply sever me. I require items. I didn't respond. I just captured the exchange and emailed it to my attorney. Next arrived the requests for funds. She began messaging me, claiming I owed her for the 3 years together. She demanded a breakup settlement. She argued she had put in her time and emotional effort into our bond and merited payment. Her closest friend, Jenna, also messaged me, labeling me a loser for evicting a recently single lady with nothing. I disregarded all of it. The true excitement began about a month later. The initial segment of my inheritance had passed probate and a substantial sum was now in my account. Felt surreal. I was still mourning my grandfather, but I knew he wouldn't want me to dwell in sadness. He was someone who valued experiencing life fully, so I chose to pay tribute to him by doing exactly that. I didn't wish to remain in the apartment we shared. It was packed with too many recollections, most now spoiled. I sought a clean slate. I reached out to a luxury real estate broker and said I wanted a penthouse with an excellent vista. 2 weeks on, I was finalizing the lease on a gorgeous 3-bedroom unit on the top level of the city's latest tower. The skyline panorama was incredible. I dedicated the following month to decorating it. I brought in a professional designer. I acquired artwork. I set up a cutting-edge home workspace. For the first time ever, I wasn't concerned about costs on anything. It was freeing. I didn't pursue any of this for revenge against Isabella. I was merely crafting a fresh existence for myself, one she had explicitly stated she wanted no role in. I had launched a new private Instagram profile to post images of the makeover for a handful of trusted friends and relatives. I understood, though, that word would reach her eventually. Our city isn't enormous. The explosion hit on a Friday evening. I had just completed installing my new entertainment setup. I snapped a photo of the vista from my living room window. The entire city glowed below. I had a tumbler of premium scotch on the table in the front. I uploaded it with a basic caption, "Fresh start." I didn't geotag it, but the panorama was obvious to locals. Took under an hour. A mutual acquaintance must have viewed it and forwarded it to her. My phone vibrated. It was an unknown number. One text. "I miss us." I just gazed at it. After all her words, after labeling me unappealing and useless due to my job loss, after attempting to max my card and demand cash, a single image of a fancy place was enough for her to slink back. It wasn't me she longed for. It was the luxury she believed she'd discarded. I captured the message. I didn't answer. I just sat, viewing the urban glow, and began to chuckle. That message, that sad, obvious forward plea was the highlight of my life. Her "I miss us" was merely the start. When I stayed silent, the true panic set in. The following morning, I faced a barrage of texts from her, Jenna, and even her mother. They echoed the same theme. She had erred. She was overwhelmed. She hadn't meant her words. We were destined. It was a planned assault. I ignored them all. I just kept advancing my days. That weekend, I purchased a new vehicle. A smooth black performance car I dreamed of since childhood. I shared an image of it in my fresh garage. The next day, I attended a charity event my grandfather backed. I posted a shot of myself in a fresh suit. I was building a visible story of my transformed world, one vastly removed from what she had dismissed. The face-to-face clash arrived a week after. I was dining with some buddies at a trendy new spot in the city center. We occupied a patio table. Midway through, I noticed her. Isabella. She approached our table with that resolute, phony warm grin. She placed her hand on my shoulder. "Hi," she said, her tone laced with artificial closeness. What a surprise. My friends fell silent. They knew the full tale. "Isabella," I said without glancing up. What do you need? Can we speak? She pressed, disregarding my group. Just briefly, alone. No, I said, nothing to discuss. You were crystal clear. The grin vanished. Don't act this way, she whispered. I realize I erred. I was frightened. You were unemployed and I freaked. But now I see I was mistaken. I should have trusted you more. I met her eyes at last. Trusted me, or trusted my grandfather's wealth? Which is it? She flinched as if struck. That's unfair, she said. Isn't it? I countered. You showed little trust when leaving my place 2 months back. You deemed me unappealing then. What shifted? Did my new home alter my appearance? She was drawing attention. Nearby tables glanced over. This was what I aimed to evade, but she cornered me. Leave, Isabella, I said, voice steady and low. You're humiliating yourself. No, she insisted, louder. I won't go until you listen. We shared 3 years. You can't discard that. I didn't discard it, I said, rising. You did. You discarded it thinking I was penniless. You bet wrong, Isabella. You wagered I was a failure and you failed. Now deal with it. It's not my issue. She stood frozen, mouth agape as I resumed my seat and lifted my utensil. My friends eyed her. She eventually turned and departed, face flushed with shame. But it wasn't finished. A few weeks on, I received a call from a man named Kevin. He claimed to be a connection through Isabella's circle. He said he'd met her a month prior and they began seeing each other. He explained she fed him a tale about her awful ex, me, with a betting addiction who squandered everything, compelling her departure. He'd been supporting her, covering rent and vehicle costs, but grew wary. She constantly sought more cash but lacked employment. Then a buddy sent him a link to a regional publications site. It featured recent upscale property deals, including my penthouse photo with my name as purchaser. Kevin connected the dots. He challenged Isabella and her narrative crumbled. She'd been using him as a short-term bank while plotting her return to me. He'd ended it that day. He wasn't phoning to rage. He called to express gratitude. He said the peace prevented further waste on her. Last I heard, Isabella relocated to her parents' home. Her brief fling with Kevin ended and her path to me was destroyed. She gambled and lost twice. I haven't heard from her since. I blocked her everywhere. My days are calm now and it's wonderful. I launched a modest advisory company with former coworkers and it's gaining momentum. The penthouse is fantastic. The car is enjoyable. But the greatest aspect, the one that still brings a grin, is the tranquility. I poured a scotch, gazed at the city glow and raised a glass to my fresh start.